Imagine you have an army, hundreds of thousands of soldiers, fortresses, a navy, intelligence networks. You control trade routes, taxation, the fates of millions. You are the greatest force of your era. And then it all collapses. Not by the sword, not by plague, not by famine, by a word, by a prayer, by the fact that someone started believing differently. History has seen hundreds of wars, but the most devastating destruction empires ever suffered, they inflicted upon themselves, in the moment they tried to turn faith into an instrument of control, never noticing how that instrument slowly, quietly, almost imperceptibly turned against them. And the most chilling part of this story, they always thought everything was going according to plan, right up until the very end. The logic seemed ironclad. If people believe in one God, they submit to one king. If they share one church, they share one loyalty. If there is a common sacred text, there is a common moral code. Convenient, manageable, controllable. Religion appeared to be the perfect adhesive for empire, cheaper than an army, more reliable than law, deeper than any policy. It reached places that tax collectors and imperial officials never could, into minds, into hearts, into the private lives of every single subject. Rulers exploited this idea for centuries, and almost every time it cracked precisely where it appeared most solid. Take Rome, not the pagan Rome with its colorful pantheon and casual religious tolerance, but the Christian Rome, the one that seemed unbreakable precisely because it had finally found a single faith to bind its subjects together. Constantine legalized Christianity not out of piety, out of calculation, cold, political, almost cynical calculation. A unified church was supposed to hold together a colossal machine of power that was already coming apart at the seams. But what happened next? The church immediately split against itself, Arians against Nicenes, Monophysites against Chalcedonians, Nestorians, Donatists. Every theological dispute about the nature of Christ was no longer just theology, it was a political fault line dressed in the language of the divine. Entire provinces drifted into heresy, and along with it into de facto autonomy. Egypt prayed differently from Constantinople, Syria differently from Rome, Armenia differently from everyone else. And these provinces didn't merely believe differently, they stopped feeling like part of a unified whole. Long before the Arabs conquered them, they were already lost, inwardly, spiritually, politically. There is the first paradox. Religion, designed to unite, became the most precise language of separatism ever devised.
But before we go further, if you enjoy watching breakdowns like this, if these stories grab you, subscribe to the channel and hit the like button. It helps us make more of these videos and keeps the algorithm from burying us alive. Now, let's keep going, because what comes next is even more compelling. Spain, the late 15th century. The Reconquista is complete. The Moors have been driven from the Iberian Peninsula, and Ferdinand and Isabella stand at the peak of triumph. And it is precisely at this moment that they establish the Inquisition. Not merely out of religious fanaticism, though there was plenty of that, out of cold political calculation. One faith, one state. Jews and Moors are forced to convert or leave. Those who convert but continue practicing their faith in secret are hunted down. A system of surveillance, informants, and public executions was meant to forge the kind of religious unity that would hold the newborn empire together for eternity. In the short term, it looked like a victory. Spain did become monolithically Catholic, on the surface at least. But here is what unfolded over the long term. The country expelled a significant portion of its educated class: physicians, merchants, financiers, craftsmen, people who knew how to do complex things and had passed that knowledge down through generations. It created within itself an entire stratum of people, the so-called New Christians, who outwardly attended Mass while inwardly carrying a profound sense of humiliation, of violence done to their very identity. And it burned through staggering resources, people, money, time, energy, on surveillance, denunciations, trials, and executions, resources that could have built an economy, advanced science, developed institutions. Religious unity came at the cost of economic and intellectual decline. Faith was used as cement, but the cement turned out to be acid. And here it's worth pausing to ask, why did this happen again and again? Why did intelligent, experienced rulers, advised by men who knew their history perfectly well, step into the same trap over and over? Because the trap was built into the very nature of the tool. Religion works like this. It doesn't just create rules, it creates meaning. People will endure hardship, give away their money, walk toward death for meaning. That made it irresistibly attractive to power. But meaning has one deeply inconvenient property. It cannot be fully controlled from above. It lives inside people. And when people begin to sense that their faith is being manipulated, that behind the sacred words stand the very earthly interests of very specific people in power, something inside them shifts. The faith doesn't die. It radicalizes, it goes underground, or it finds a new, alternative prophet. Look at the Ottoman Empire, an example from the opposite direction entirely. For a long time, it was remarkably tolerant of religious diversity. The millet system allowed Christians, Jews, and Armenians to live under their own laws, maintain their own courts, their own education. This was not humanism in any modern sense, it was pragmatism of the highest order. Different communities paid their taxes, maintained their loyalty, and didn't generate constant hotbeds of rebellion. Religious diversity worked in favor of stability, as long as everyone remained in their place and didn't encroach on anyone else's. But in the 19th century, as the empire began fracturing under the pressure of nationalism and external competition, its rulers reached in panic for Islam as a binding force. They tried to make religious identity the primary one, and they immediately transformed Christian minorities into internal enemies, enemies that external powers were only too happy to support. Russia, Britain, France, all of them had every reason to destabilize the empire from within. The religious card, played in a moment of weakness, accelerated exactly what they feared: disintegration, wars, ethnic catastrophe. Here lies the true trap and the deepest paradox within it. Religion as an instrument of power only works when power barely touches it. The moment crude exploitation begins, people sense it with unerring accuracy, and faith reduced to politics ceases to be faith. It becomes a justification for resistance, and the most dangerous kind of resistance, the kind that considers itself righteous. Empires believed they controlled religion. In reality, religion controlled them. It dictated who counted as the enemy. It demanded wars that made no economic sense. It generated fractures precisely where unity was needed. It elevated figures that power desperately wanted forgotten. It turned executed heretics into martyrs, and martyrs into the banners of the next uprising. And here is what is truly disturbing about this pattern. It did not stay in the past. The mechanism functions identically across every era because it does not depend on political systems or specific religions. It depends on human psychology. People are capable of surrendering everything for their faith, but only for a genuine faith. The moment they sense that their meaning is being used, that their sacred thing has become someone's political asset, something inside them rises up, quietly, gradually, but unstoppably. The most precise definition of this trap is not political nor theological, it is psychological. Great empires did not fall because they lacked armies. They fell because they tried to govern something that cannot be governed, something that lives deeper than any law, something stronger than any fear, without firing a single shot.
If you want to know more about this topic, subscribe to our channel.